an honor. I'm going to ask a favor of you. When you leave here today and go about your business, uh, most of you probably have veterans in your family or in your friends. You have veterans, or if you're just out shopping and very good. I'll get a little closer. Now, if you're just out shopping and you see someone wearing a veteran's cap like many of you are, take a minute to shake their hand, say thank you, welcome home. Believe me, they will very much appreciate it. The brief story that I'm going to share with you this morning is true. It happened several years ago in our country's history, at another time when this country was also at war. The president at this time, he was not very popular. Even though he had just won an election, things were not going well in the war or in the country. His advisors and his aides wanted him to get out in the public, make speeches, be seen. He was a personable man and he very much wanted to do this, but he wanted to do it on his own terms. He was waiting for a great victory in battle. Finally, a victory came, and soon thereafter, an invitation came to the president to travel outside of Washington about 90 or 100 miles to talk. He immediately accepted and began working on his speech. As the day drew closer for him to leave, he invited his entire cabinet to go with him. Only 3 accepted: the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Interior, and his Postmaster General. He did take along some Washington dignitaries. He took 2 secretaries. A military guard was laid on, and the Marine band. I have a feeling those last 2 groups probably didn't get a choice. A special train was laid on with 4 cars. But come the day before the party was to leave, it almost all got scrubbed. His child became very ill. His wife was beside herself with worry. She insisted that he not leave the White House, let alone leave Washington. After a brief visit with the White House physician, he was assured that indeed the child was ill, but it was a childhood illness, that he would recover. So he left on time. They arrived at their destination the next day about 5 p.m. The welcoming party consisted of a Mr. David Wills. It would be Mr. Wills' home, who the president would stay with that night, and he would also dine with them. It is said that a great time was had by all around the dinner table, and good conversation, a lot of laughter. The president excused himself to retire early to his second-story bedroom. He said he wanted to get a good night's rest and to continue working on his speech. As he was getting settled into his bedroom, he heard singing. He went to the window and opened up the window, and sure enough, he was being serenaded. When the people saw him at the window, they began to clap and to holler, "Speech, speech." The president smiled and said, "No speech tomorrow, show up tomorrow." Or, "No speech tonight, show up tomorrow." He closed the window, and as he was making his final preparations to get into bed, a knock came at the door. It was one of his secretaries. He had a telegram from the doctor in Washington. It was good news. His son was going to be just fine. This family had already lost 2 children. Come the next day, it was a beautiful day, and when him and his party approached the area where the speaker's platform was set up, he was happy to see some 15 or 20,000 people have already gathered. He was further amused to learn that he wasn't the first speaker, nor was he the keynote speaker. That position belonged to Mr. Edwin Everett. Mr. Everett was the past president of Harvard University. The president inquired about a small tent that had been set up in front of the speaker's platform. He was told that Mr. Everett was suffering from a bladder infection. And while he usually talked for 2 hours or more, he would need to relieve himself. History doesn't tell us too much of what Mr. Everett said. He did talk for more than 2 hours. Finally, it was time for our Commander-in-Chief, the President, to speak. He stood up. He was a tall man, especially in his stovepipe hat. His name was Abraham Lincoln. He was the 16th President of the United States of America. The place was Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The occasion was the dedication of a national cemetery being formed there to bury the some 11,000 Union and Confederate dead who had been killed there. The date was November 19, 1863. This is what he had to say. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. May God bless America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corporal Mack. Your words are genuinely appreciated and valued. I guarantee you that. Sharing with us a song applicable to the occasion, once again, welcome back, Chad Young.
This is my country, land of my birth. This is my country, grandest on earth. I pledge thee my allegiance, America the bold, for this is my country, to have and to hold. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Now, if that didn't give you a few bumps on your skin, like there's something wrong, those get much better than that. Thank you, Chad. We appreciate that very much. The poem applicable to Memorial Day, Sandy Klassen.